We're going to talk about some Ableton tips and tricks. Just things that I've learned over the years that have made me work with Ableton faster, not spend as much time utilizing the critical thinking portion of my brain for how do I do X, or where do I find X. Starting from top to bottom with what we see on screen right now, my first tip for every Ableton user would be to create a reference track in your project. I have this in my default template. You don't necessarily have to do this. One thing you can do is go into your user library, create a folder called channel strips, and then drag this into there. And you could call that something like reference or ref. As you see, I have a few of these that I've set up over the years. And how this works is it's just a plain audio track that's muted, and it has the in-out routing set such that the output bypasses my master channel and goes directly out to my sound card. What that allows me to do is have a separate set of processing on my master that is not going to affect this reference. And if I'm working on a song, at any point what I can do is I can go grab some song, some track, load it into the reference channel, and now it's muted. I can play and we don't hear anything. But if I do Command K to open up my key mapping, you'll see I have the number 1 mapped to the solo Q button on your keyboard. So the reason why I have the 1 is so while I'm playing, I can just have my song playing and immediately jump back and forth. Immediately I can look at exactly, and by look I mean listen. I can play this game called Spot the Difference right away. And that is really the importance of referencing. What you're doing is you're playing a game of Spot the Difference. You're looking at, for example, what is my high end doing? What is their high end doing? What does the shape of their chorus versus my chorus look like? How many instruments are there? How loud is the kick? How loud is the vocal? Is there any filtering on the hi-hats? Is there any filtering on the guitars? Are they high-passed? Are they low-passed? What is going on? And how does that compare to what's going on in my track? I'm not saying better or worse. I'm just playing a game of qualitative differences. Good and bad is not qualitative. That is a subjective opinion on the work. If you're trying to reference, it doesn't matter how good or bad it is, because your whole thing is, if theirs is better than yours, you're stealing from them. It's like the whole meme goes, good artists imitate, great artists steal. This is me making sure that when I have to steal, I don't have to think about loading up a plugin. I don't have to think about setting up a signal chain. I don't have to think about prioritizing the balance of the mix. I can just pull this in. If I'm doing mixing, I would just turn this down to whatever the reference level of my mixing is. If I have my song at 0, I'll pull this up to 0. If I have my song at -12, I'll pull this down to -12. And then when it comes to mastering, I just leave this alone and I just master it so that it sounds the same as the song. It takes a lot less thinking and a lot more understanding, in a sense. So it's a really, really big part of my workflow. And so that's why I leave it there. Even if I don't use it in a song, I leave it there because it is that important. It's a signal to me to always, always, always reference. Always have some sort of context. Because what is music if not the context that it lives in, right? In addition to that, this is something that I've actually started to do recently. I stole this idea from a friend of mine named Vapor Cruz, one of the most talented musicians I know. Seriously, like a genius level intelligence. Now, in every project, I have this piano plugin just sitting here. And the whole purpose for this is actually kind of twofold. In one situation, it's a repository for MIDI information. If I'm working on a song and I have stuff down here and I'm like, oh, well, I need to work on something else, well, I'll just pull that up there and then I'll just start writing this new idea. And this just gets to sit here in kind of like a pass bay of sorts for me to carry on ideas. If I'm writing ideas and I want to go and evolve a song, what I can do is I can actually keep this up and actually keep every single piece of information. This is what I got from Vapor Cruise. He writes pretty much his whole song in the piano roll on a piano first. He'll have like, drums down here really, really low in order to, give himself space because these aren't going to be played on the piano and stuff like that. He'll have like his chords up here, his bass lines here. He'll throw melodies up here really, really high so that they have a separation between other melodies. And then when it comes time to actually write the song, it's like, okay, well, I just copy this here, I copy this here, I copy this here, and then I double put it here, and then I put this here, and then look at how quickly I'm writing a song. So that's the thing that really stuck with me. And yeah, having it as like some sort of just repository really helps with essentially iterating on ideas. Because if you don't like the thing you have, but you think it's good enough, okay, well this is, let me just make a clip and then like, oh, this is really good, but I think it could be better. Let me save it up here, and now let me go in and start changing everything. I don't really like that. Let me go back to this one and let me try again. Ooh, I actually really like that. That's really, really good. Now I have this thing just for later. I can just save that and I can move forward with this idea. And the third big thing for this, sometimes I'll do this on a separate track if the piano roll is being used in any situations, but the other big thing with having a MIDI clip specifically up here at Ableton is I can go grab a big chunk of time, Command-Shift-M or Control-Shift-M if you're on Windows, and now I have a little noteboard. And I can start giving myself markers, just a little set of instructions. Like, and it can be as vague as just fix me, or, maybe remove. Like, things like this, just little markers for yourself. Like this, like the way I usually use it is, this is supposed to be for sections. Like, this is like, new drop here, or things like add pre-intro. And this is my philosophy. You'll find your own, but I'm going to show you all the different ways you can make notes and use them in your projects. This would be for like, oh, I like this, I don't like this. These are like quick momentary things that I want to have if I'm in a section. These are more broad, overarching things. If it's something for a specific track, a lot of times I will actually go in and edit info text, this thing right here. You can see down here, this is where now it says notes, track audio. I could say things like, don't forget, let me just turn on caps lock. Don't forget to comp these vocals, add 2K to lead vox, add, subtract 500 hertz from EG vox, etc., etc. And then, you click away, and now every time I click back to this track, those notes stay there. And the last thing I would recommend in Ableton for keeping track of your notes is this plugin, this Max for Live device specifically, called Notepad. It was made by that guy Elephant, ELPHNT. And there's a paid version, which I think I have, and a free version, which I think does not allow you to do things like change colors or increase or do the pop-out window. But this is a thing that I usually will drag onto my master channel or onto an individual channel, and it'll work kind of like the notes there. This is where I'll be like, overarching things for the whole song, like midsection needs work, add new riser to bridge, maybe soothe high end, like things like that. And I was actually just about to say that, Seb. No matter which DAW you're in, have notebooks, have things that you can physically write in. Now, I don't use these a lot of the time. These are mostly empty, but the idea is I want to have physical access to all of the different types of ideas that I can generate. If I am not directly at my computer and it's faster for me to get to my notepad, I would much rather do that. Oh yeah, iPad is great. I use Mac, like just anywhere that you can keep notes, use that, because note-taking removes the requirement for memory. It means you do not have to think about this stuff, you just have it there and you can always access it. Additionally, the more you access stuff, this will be another tip, the more it should be in your default template. Like my reference, like if I just do Command N right now to open up a new project, my default template is relatively plain. I have that reference track playlist, I have the grand piano, I have 2 MIDI channels, and I have 2 audio channels. I'm basically just using a modified version of the default Ableton template. But if you look at these MIDI tracks and these audio tracks, they're not your standard MIDI and audio tracks. I've created my own custom default MIDI and audio channels. I definitely recommend you do that. You see down here at the very bottom when I right click, or I'll go over here. When I right click, you can see save as default MIDI tracks. You can create your own personalized thing for instrument tracks and audio tracks and really most channels, even returns. You'll find what works for you. For some people, they have it load up with their favorite VST. Like I know a lot of people who, when they open up a new instrument track, it automatically loads with Serum. I used to do that with Phase Plant for a while, but now I just have an instrument rack, and then I have my mixing rack via kind of channel strip that I built that goes on every new track that I make. Every new track, whether it's an instrument track or an audio track, will have this mixing rack. But with instrument racks now, if I want to save a preset, instead of having to, like, you know, let's say I want to make a phase plant preset, right? I come in and I, you know, do all this stuff, and I do all this stuff, and yada yada yada, and yada yada yada, and do all this stuff, and do all that stuff, and I have this really cool patch, and it's doing all these things. Woo, randomness, hooray. Okay, there we go. So we have this patch, and I want to save it. I don't want to just save it here. I want to be able to use it later. Good tip. Don't just save presets within the VST. Save them as racks. What I could do is I could either right-click, group, or, to be really quick, Command-G to group it to a rack. And then I could do things like either set up macros, or I could just click this little floppy disk icon right here, and then it lets me save it as a preset right there. Then I can just drag that in, or search for it, and then it's good to go. I actually have already set something up like this. If I just do stock phase plant and I double hit enter, that loads up a phase plant that already has the 8 macros in phase plant pre-mapped to the 8 macros in the instrument rack. So just like that, I have the macros already set up for automation. So I can do this really quickly. I don't have to think about it. I would recommend, that's another big tip, start saving stock preset racks. If I just type in stock ADG, I have a stock Serum, a stock Spire, stock phase plant. I have multiple different variations of stock master channels, stock master, or stock massive, excuse me. And this is just my way of setting up the VST in such a way that I don't have to think about it. I think I also have init as another one. Yeah, like I have a form initialized version digits that I was using for a while. And that allows me to just jump in right away without having to think about setting up and designing the sounds, right? I already have macros assigned to the most common parameters that I'd want to automate. It gets me into the process faster. Same with anything else. If there's a preset that you use a lot, save it as a preset and not just in the actual plugin, in your racks. I use my user library all the time. It's a great channel storage. I have like by year all these different presets saved. It's like, oh, well, I need to go grab like my Samba drums contact library. Instead of having to open up contact, go search for it, go bring it up, I just drag this library in. All of a sudden, I have it loaded and I'm ready to go in half the time. I don't have to think. I don't have to try and hunt. I just have the drums available. And then if I want to change things, I already have the VST open and I can go in and adjust it from there. You can definitely go overboard with things like that, but I would say, you know, look for the things that are really important for you to work with. And with that being said, let me actually go and show off my mixing rack, because I actually recommend you have something like this. I don't think you should necessarily have it exactly how I set it up. You should try and find for yourself how this should work, but I have set up essentially a set of plugins that I use almost all the time. At almost every point in the process, I will want some combination of these effects. I have an EQ with a low pass filter and a high pass filter that I did in reverse order, with it kind of preset to a high pass. So if I really need to just kind of clean up the mix, I can just go through every single channel and just flip on the EQ knob, and all of a sudden I have a high pass at 100 hertz. Low end's cut from every element that I flip that onto. Low end's all of a sudden cleaner. I have a compressor with a control over the makeup gain, so I'm not using automatic makeup, so I can just kind of go over here and very quickly just dial in a compressor. I have this switch which turns on a utility plugin, and the reason why I do that is so I can have two different forms of gain control. I have the gain control on the actual channel up here, and then I have this, which starts off at minus infinity decibels and goes up to 0 as a way to do additional gain staging before it reaches this final plugin, which is just a soft clipper, so that at no point is any channel going out above 0 dB. Every single element of my mix exists under 0 dB in the digital realm because of this plugin on every single channel. And it means that I have to be more conscious about my gain staging within the actual signal chain, and I can't just turn shit down on the track fader. You know what I mean? And the only other thing I have on here is with the utility on, I actually have control over the width of the plugin. I can either remove all the width or add up to 4 times the original side signal. And I mostly use this just to kind of add more side and then turn down the volume of sounds to give it more stereo width and stuff like that. But I just found that those were plugins that I would use consistently whenever I was working on a track, so just have them built in so that whenever I load a new track, bada bing, there you go, you have it. Boom, high pass. I don't even have to open the plugin. I need it to be more high pass, I just pull this up. I don't even have to open up the plugin. I need to turn it down, I don't even have to open up the plugin. I just keep the windows closed and I use the macros. So much faster. Saves me time. Other good things that I would recommend would be to save channel strips like this. I have like my sidechain routing like this, and I have like different plugin chains there for like routing everything out. If I have an audio clip and I want to put that into a sampler, there are 2 ways I could do that. Let's say I have, yeah, that snare right there. Let's say I want to pull that snare into an instrument rack. What I can do is I can make a new instrument rack, I can go grab a simpler. I can go drag this into the simpler, and then I can go set this up like so. That's set up. Pull this in, and I'm done. Or, bear with me here. What I can do is I can just zoom in real quick, select this range that I want to come in, Command E to cut, Command Shift T to add a new channel, to drag straight down, bada bing, there we go. Maybe a little bit of tweaking, but way less time spent. Way less time spent. Just like that. I got that from Mr. Bill. Same exact thing. If you want to do like a sampler, like if you want to get a sampler, you can just click, drag down, right click, simpler to sampler, just like that. You're already on the sampler. You can play with, you know, FM and stuff like that. And do whatever you want. I would say learn to treat the session view as kind of like a sketch pad and a mixer, rather than just as like an afterthought. Like typically I like to have my my volume faders at maximum here, because it's not perfect, but here if I have a bunch of different lanes, I don't have to think so much about like, well, what's going on here. I can just look at the VU meters and make my calls based on what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. I don't have to kind of guesstimate. And I find that this is a really nice way of mixing. And honestly, there's some really cool things you can do in session view for just kind of generating ideas. Like, let me just go ahead. What is it for insert scene? Just Command I. Let me just hold Command I for a second. Let's grab 2 audio tracks right here. And I'm going to grab just loops. I'm going to grab top loop. I'm just going to grab all these. Drag them right over here. There we go. Okay, so a bunch of top loops, right? I'm going to select this top one. I'm going to come down. I'm going to double click on the bottom one while I'm holding select. I guess I should have this up first. So while I have this window open, let's click this and let's shift click all the way up to the top. Now you can see I have 132 separate audio clips selected. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to click on this little button that looks like the letter L. This is going to open up the launch window mode. I'm going to click this right here. I'm going to click any. Now, what we're doing is we're creating a follow action. This is going to say that every 1 bar, 0 beats, 0 16th notes, we're going to change to any other clip. Any other clip that we have is going to be selected. Let's set this to 120. Oh, I have to probably adjust some of these. Now they're all set up, so let's just listen to what happens. Okay. So every bar or so, it's jumping between these different clips. And it is resetting at the start of every clip. And we don't want that. So we're going to go select all these again. And now I'm going to click this button that says Legato. What Legato Mode does is it remembers the playhead position and it chooses whatever clip you're moving to and puts its playhead at wherever that would be on the clip. So if I click here, now that's all right, but it's happening every bar, so it's still like we're kind of jumping through clips. I'm going to turn this down to 1, 2, 3, 1 beat, 1 quarter note. So now every quarter note we're going to have a completely new clip. Ooh, that's pretty cool, right? So now I have this audio channel right here. Let's take the input and output routing, and I'm just going to, this is another tip, never click in these menus. You have no reason to use your mouse in these menus other than to open them up. Click here. I'm going to press the number 3 on my keyboard. Hit enter. I've already set up the routing. You don't have to click into a menu. You can just type in stuff. If I want to do configure, I just did CON. If I want to do sends only, SEXT out, master 135, I just have to press the number or the letter on my keyboard. And that works for every menu. Even if you're talking about stuff like on a sidechain, which we're going to get to in a little bit, same exact thing here. 1, 2, 4, 5, C, A. I don't have to do anything but click, or type. Excuse me. If you love your mouse, you can't be an Ableton producer. I'm sorry. Well, you can, but you're not going to be as efficient. Stop using your mouse. Your mouse is your enemy if you're an Ableton producer. If you want to use your mouse, be an FL Studio producer, they have way more features that are designed for the mouse. And I'm being completely serious about this. It is way faster to be a mouse-heavy producer in FL Studio than it is to be a mouse-heavy producer in Ableton. That's not meant to say that one is better. I just think that for my way of producing, I'm very much kind of coming at it from like almost like a programmer kind of thing, where I want to use the keyboard as much as possible. Ableton allows me to do that easier than with FL. So that's just my little rant. But what we're going to do now is I'm just going to click this record button. I'm also going to turn off the count in. And we're just going to record maybe a minute, not even, on these different 1/4 note rhythms. All right, let's stop. Okay, so let's stop this as well, and let's just go drag. So I'm gonna hold my mouse over this, click and hold, so that now I can kind of drag this around. Hold tab, and let's pull this over to the arrangement view. Now, I have this sequence of loops. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to loop, and I'm just going to listen to 1-bar sections. If I don't like that, let's just move it forwards a 1/4 note. Each one's a new loop. Like, that's a really cool loop, right? You could go through and start finding different top loops and just recording little 1 or 2 bar sequences. And you'll end up with stuff like this. Which, like, you could just loop this 2-bar thing. It sounds like it's a little bit off time, but like, you just take something like this. And just add that little clap thing at the end. Exactly. So you can play around with this and just see what happens. You could do this 2 or 3 or 4 times, and then you could load those back up into this same rack of things, and then you could just jump through this loop and do the same exact recording process. You could go as many times as you want. With these random follow actions, you could choose other rather than any. Any chooses any clip, including itself. Other chooses any clip excluding itself. You could have some at different follow rates, so maybe this one you want to have it play for 2 beats, this other one you want it to play for half a beat, and you could start to create all these interconnected rhythms and make all of these loops that you buy from Splice your own loops. because, yeah, those are cool, but look at this one that I've made myself. Legacy Beast Model. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And I don't know, it's more fun this way. I've done this for tom rolls, I've done this for drum loops, I've done this for bass lines. You can do this for anything, chords, vocal chops, and you can only do that in the session view. You can't do that in arrangement view. You can, but it's going to take more active thought. This frees you to just let randomness be your guide and start curating the musical results. On that same subject, I want to introduce you to something that I've shown off a long time ago, and this is something called a 4x4. Now, I got this idea from Liam Shai, who is an instructor at the Pyramide School up in San Francisco. They're a production school. I took a couple classes there while I was getting my film composing degree. Pretty cool institution, pretty cool people overall. But Liam had a lot of really good strategies on how to approach songwriting that I thought were really, really helpful, especially for people who are just starting out. And in one case, this is a commentary on doing templates. I strongly recommend you do templates. I have been doing yearly templates since 2016, where I will have many different types of templates. Like, this is where I used to have all my song analysis templates. I have done templates for sound design and for using different tools. I've had templates, like even my default templates I've changed. These are like my templates from school. These are like some various sampling templates. These are all like my my production templates, and as you can see, I have a bunch from this year. And I constantly update my default template and my collection of templates just to sort of constantly be refining my process. The default template I showed you earlier, that has only been in place for about 4 or 5 months now. I used to have something a little bit more in depth. That's this one right here. You know, it evolves. And I got that idea from Liam, and from this idea of what I call 4x4s, what he called Preto Types or Preto typing, which is kind of like a pre-prototype. Another way that I have found to describe this is an MVP, not like a most valuable player, but this is a programming thing. It's the minimum viable product. It's like, what is the bare essential idea that you need to have for this to be seen as a song? Well, in generally speaking, this is obviously not going to be a universal case. Some drums, some sort of harmony elements like chords, some sort of bass line, and some sort of melody. In terms of sections, there's going to be something analogous to a verse, something analogous to a chorus, something analogous to a break, and something analogous to a bridge. Maybe not every song is going to have a bridge, but at the very core, you're going to have a chorus and a verse at some stage of the game, and typically you're going to have some downturn section or a breakdown or a break or something to carry the energy to a lower place so you can bring it back up. So this is just a very simple drum machine, a couple of basic synthesizers, and then some clip or some scenes, they're called, in the session view to just generate, well, what would the chorus have? How would that differ from the verse? How would that differ from the break? How would those things differ from the bridge? And Liam would say he'd just take like an hour or 2 hours or so every single day and just write one of these. You're not committing to a full song. This is kind of similar to our 20 and 30-minute production challenges that we do, where you are just focusing on getting the idea out, committing to it, and finishing it as best you can in this limited time, even if it's not perfect. Because if you can capture that moment and really get the idea out, well, now you have something to build upon. You have something to grow out into an idea. On the other hand, if you ended up with something kind of shit, you're not really investing all that much time into perfecting this turd. You're not polishing this turd into a diamond. You're only focusing on the things that are perfect, or things that are good enough to continue at the very least. So, you know, I used to do this like Monday through Friday. I would do one Preto type a day. Saturday, I would look at them, I would pick the best 2, and I would try and write them into songs. And you don't have to stick with just these 4 tracks. You can add in as many tracks as you need, but the idea is you're sort of vertically arranging, and then when you're done, you can just kind of play through these sections and be like, okay, I want to do this, I want to go chorus, verse, break, chorus, verse, break, bridge, chorus, outro. That could be your song. You could kind of live arrange it, and then you just tab over to the arrangement view, click that button right there, and now you have your song structured. You can just go in and finish it, add in all those edits and do all that stuff. I definitely recommend trying that if you have trouble finishing songs, or especially starting songs. If you have no problem starting songs but you have trouble finishing them, this isn't really the best thing, because it's just going to get you into writing more songs. But if you're having trouble with the blank canvas, this is a great way to start. Additionally, racks. Having racks is going to be really helpful. Like, I save my own here under presets. I have audio effect racks that I've made myself. I've had instrument racks that I've made myself. It can be helpful to sort them by year, or by style, or by category. Try your own way of organizing. I found that just organizing things by year helps me keep track of them. Save clips. Save clips. Save clips of things. Because you can either drag them onto a track and just use the MIDI, or you can drag it into an empty space and it'll load up the instrument that you had and all the channel strip elements that you had. Pretty cool, right? And again, this is another thing that I do by year. You don't have to do just melodies. You can also do like samples, like that. I try to save these every now and again. And if you're just kind of coming up with ideas, this is a really helpful way to catalog them so that you're not wasting them. I also use this for sampling sometimes. Like if I'm trying to just come up with ideas for sample packs, I'll just go through projects and I'll just grab clips. I'll just grab clips of things that I think are good enough, and then I'll bring them into a new session, and I'll just drag in all the clips. And I'll be like, okay, save this, refix this, mix this, process this a little bit more, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I have like 10 or 20 different samples that I can throw into a sample pack. Just like with the hotkey for my reference track, I recommend using the Keymapper for lots of stuff. I have a few different ones, as you can see right here. I have one attached to the solo on my reference track. I have the / for my arrangement markers, or my locators. Up here, I just tap that / and it automatically puts them in. I got that from Andrew Huang, actually, from one of his videos. I use the accent or tilde key to deactivate and activate the metronome, so I don't have to click it. I believe I have 2 more. Yeah, I also have the uppercase A. So A, if I just have A, it switches between automation view and not automation view. You can see it right there. This turns blue. That's the automation lane button. But Shift A turns on automation arm. And this is something that I realized. If I have a track selected, like if, let's say I have this grand piano track selected, and I press F9, which is the record hotkey, it starts recording on the track. If I wanted to just record the automation, for example, like, let me turn on automation arm, Shift A, let me record. You know, if I want to do that, and I don't want to delete over that, well, I actually just have to deactivate the record arm on that track, and record, but automatically attach it. So automation arm is going to be just for whatever automations you move. whether or not the track is armed. I have one more, which is the M key, or excuse me, not M, but Shift M. M is for the musical typing keyboard right here. Shift M I have to turn on and off my master chain. Because the way I have my master chain set up, this will be another tip, is to have essentially a stock master strip at your control, something that you can use, but something that isn't necessarily on all the time, just so you can see how your song sounds with a mastering compressor and when it's going through some sort of commercial loudness applications. Just to see how it competes, especially if you're trying to reference your song in other listening environments, like in someone's car or on earbuds or at a club. Having your song at a commercial level of loudness will really help. On my master channel, I just have these 3 plugins. I have this console recall VST, which is just a way to quickly access the Universal Audio console application, which is just a third-party plugin that Universal Audio has for using their DSP stuff. It's pretty useful, but I definitely wouldn't recommend you getting it unless you want to drop way too much money. And then I have FabFilter's Pro L2. I just have this set up to, I think it's set to the practically clipping preset as my default, and then I just have a macro knob set to just increase the gain so I can just kind of quickly make my song louder. And then I just have a spectrum analyzer to look at my master channel. If you don't own Pro L, there's a better way to do this. I would say either use Ableton's stock glue compressor if you don't have another third-party limiter like the Waves L limiter, L1 limiter, or Ozone's limiter, or another third-party limiter if you have one you like. You can do pretty well with just a glue compressor on soft clip mode and just turning up the makeup gain. Honestly, that's the same exact process. I wouldn't use Ableton's limiter personally, but you can do fine just by also playing with that. But I really don't like Ableton's stock limiter. I find that soft clipping is generally going to sound better than limiting in this environment. But having a decent limiter like Pro L or whatever will always help. But the whole point of that is I wouldn't want to mix into that most of the time. So what I would have is, once I set the master channel up, I just do Shift M and it turns off. And now I can listen to my song without any compression, treat my things how I want it, and then just Shift M to jump back into the quote-unquote loud version of the song. Other important things, if you don't know, you can actually change each of these categories to be sorted based on certain things. Like when was the last time it was modified, how big is it, what type of file or what type of file or device it is, how often you use it, and where it's located. So for like drums, I would usually do things like rank, or like place, or instruments, I would do things like rank. I have my audio effects already pre-sorted to go based on ranked. The stock Ableton effects I use the most are near the top. The ones I use the least are down here at the bottom. And this works really well for your own libraries. Like if I go to my friends, what I can do is I can actually sort these based on their type. Go in here, and you can see wave. I could sort them based on their size or based on their place. I could see where things are located by going into like, let's say, danger zone. Place. You can kind of see where these things are located and kind of hunt them down, especially if you're doing like searching for things. Like let's search for drum. Right click up here, sort by place. Now I can see where everything is located at. Or I can look for the biggest or smallest samples that I have. Really, really useful skill to get into kind of learning how to manipulate, I would say. And in that same space, I would say learn, if you're a fast typer, this is a very important thing. If you're a fast typer, these collections are not as fast as your fingers. This is what I mean by if you're a computer, or excuse me, a keyboard-based producer, Ableton is going to be faster. If you're a mouse-based producer, FL is going to be faster. Because if I want to get, say, phase plants, I could, if I am like over here, I could go up to favorites, scroll down here, click on phase plant, drag that down. That's not too fast, or it's not too slow. I could also go, you know, if I'm here, I could go click on plugins, VST, kilohertz, scroll down here, grab phase plant, there we go, and it's open. That's pretty fast. Or Command Shift T, Command F, phase plant, VST, enter, there we go. Takes way less time for me. I don't have to think. I can just automatically have it, and that works for everything in your computer. Notice how I use the file type. If I want to search for a certain thing, I'll look for acapella wave. M. There's the M&M acapella. If I want to look for OTT, ADV, bam, now I have OTT loaded up. I wasn't even looking at my computer. And then we'll do like EQ8. I'm not looking. I'm looking at the chat right now. Let's add on Pro Q3 VST. Loaded up Pro Q. And that way, you're never slowing down your workflow. Now, again, this is if you have a high WPM. I am very much a fast typer. I definitely gloat to myself about my my 90 to 120 word per minute average, depending upon time of day and how much caffeine I've had. But it really is it's a really useful skill to get into. Figuring out how you want to sort your collections is kind of a personal thing. I see people do like different types of plugins. I see people do different manufacturers. This is the way that I've tended to use it. I don't really use these, again, because I find searching is just faster for me. But like the things I use all the time are here. Things that are just kind of floating around that I don't know where they'd go in here. Things that I want to actually use go in here. These are just distortion plugins that I use all the time, sound design plugins I use all the time, mixing plugins I use all the time, and then since UAD does not actually tell you which UAD products you own, like if I go over here to where it says powered plugins, and I look at this, they just install all the VSTs. They just install them, even if you don't own them. They just install them, and that's a pain in the ass. So I have this as a way to say, okay, I know I use these things. That's, you know, that's all about the browser. Ooh, here's another important thing. Okay, so I want to teach you a thing. Okay? This is a mnemonic that Liam Shai actually taught me, my instructor at Paramind. But I want you to remember this word. Slim, I'm going to do it in caps. Slim bro. Okay? I want you to remember Slim Bro, okay? If I come up here, I look at live view, we have all of these things right here. All of these things. Tab over here, they'll all light up, because this is the most clear way of seeing them. Now, I am going to hold Command and Alt, or Control and Alt. I'm going to do S. Command Alt, or Command Option, or Control Alt S is to show or hide your sends. Command Option, I'm going to use that from now on, but this is also Control Alt L, is for the detail view. I is for the ins and outs. M is for the mixer. B is for the browser. R is for the returns. O is for the overview. Most of these work in the arrangement view as well, but S does not, because sends are just going to be on the mixer. But L, I, M, B, R, and O, that's your way of creating screen real estate. So just remember Control Alt or Command Option Slim Bro, And that'll help you quite a bit when navigating around, especially O. Learning Command Option O at the very minimum will save you a lot of headache, because I know, like a lot of you, sometimes I'm reaching up to do this and I end up doing this. And you know what everyone hates? Doing that. So you know what's a really good thing to have? No fucking overview. It's just way easier. It's way better. I like it way more personally. So that is my recommendation, is to just hide it if you don't use it. Someone mentioned the in and out for drum racks and instrument racks. So let's load up a drum rack real quick. And let's click this button right here. It's already technically set up. I have, oops, if I come down here. Ooh, that's loud, sorry. Ooh. That snare already has reverb on it. If you see here, we have send A, send B, and returns. There's actually a reverb built into this drum rack. We have this reverb and the send reverb. We could set it out to either go directly to, oh, it looks like you can actually send the returns in a channel strip to a return in your DAW. So if you wanted to have a consistent return for different things, you could actually send them out so they're not processed with the rack. So like this, if I do the EQ and the compression, stuff like that, the reverb's gonna get processed. If I do this, now it's going to output into this channel instead, so I can process it separately. I didn't even notice that, so that's actually a good tip for myself. But yeah, I've used this a little bit sometimes to process the effects in a drum rack. Really useful. Beyond that, just having the Ableton Manual on speed dial, particularly the online version of it, is going to make your life so much easier. Being able to pretty quickly just kind of hunt for things, like just knowing where to look for the different instruments, knowing like how to search for different instruments and different effects, like knowing how this works can help. You don't have to memorize the manual, but knowing where to look is a crucial skill. And having the info view, this thing on the bottom left that I'm showing and hiding by doing Shift// or the question mark key, will do quite a bit for teaching you how to use the DAW. Oh, another thing, and this is just kind of like a cute kind of trick I figured out, but let's make a note, and let's double its tempo really quickly. Yeah, this little tiny note. Now let's make it even smaller. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control D or Command D, and then I'm going to just click the play at half tempo button. Doesn't look like anything's happening. Oh, what's that? Let's maybe put in... Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. How's it going, Capo? Yep, so this is something that I just figured out, and it goes in both directions, by the way. Instant exponential decay. Just by playing with that. Because you can repeat a duplication just by holding it down. I just hold Command D and it keeps duplicating. Mr. Bill, eat your fucking heart out, dude. Like, that's the ticket to good exponential effects, is just kind of like, work smarter, not harder. Yeah. I do this a lot now. I guess, you know, knowing how to work with the warp modes, like Silas said, are really, really important. I've done classes on these before, or streams on these, even on Theory Thursday, but just like, I love texture mode, because it's one of the few modes you can actually modulate the parameters of. I'm just going to stretch this out a whole bunch. So now I just have like this big, long sound. Ooh. And now if I just click on this, most people know about this. And then, you know. I love that shit. It's just so cool. I love doing stuff like that. It's one of my favorite parts of sound design nowadays. Because you can put anything through that and you get so many different... So many different textures. Oh, another thing. This is actually a cool trick. So we have this. As you can hear, it's technically still going. There's still stuff there. What happens if I do Command J to consolidate that? Oop. The volume just went from 0 to minus 19.2. When you are consolidating an audio file in Ableton, you are also normalizing the output. You can go further. You can go further. You can go further. You can go further. As long as there is any signal at all. Ableton will try and pull it up to 0 dB. So you can go hunting in your sound files for whatever Ableton thinks is down there in the microscopic calculations. And you can find sometimes some really cool things. This is kind of based off of the idea of the Woolg flattener. So like if I just take this thing right here and I just take like one of these, take that and let's just put it into a reverb like Ableton stock reverb, right? And I'm just gonna max out the decay time. There we go. All right, now. So let's take that and let's put a utility on it. Let's max out the utility's gain. Let's copy that once. Let's copy that maybe 2 more times, maybe 4 more times, maybe 8 more times, maybe 16 more times, maybe 32 more times. Let's do that. Let's copy that 32 times. So now we have 35 to the 32nd power, or no, 35 times 32 is 9. It's about like 100 some odd decibels, right? It's really loud. Let's put a limiter on that. I'm kind of scared. Uh-oh. We broke it. All right. Well, let's delete all these, because clearly it stops there. I'm going to turn this way down, make sure it's still playing. All right, so we got it working. Let's do... Yeah, basically that's what's happening. All right, so limiter one more time. Now this is just 35, 70, 105, 140, 175 decibels up. So the signal's still going. But notice how there's like this like kind of scratchy texture. And that's just gonna keep going as long as this is. But depending upon the reverb, you can get some really cool timbres. Depending upon the source signal, you can get some really cool timbres. The idea is you're just looking for artifacts in the signal. You can do the same exact thing by doing some circular processing. So for example, I'm gonna set this out to reverb right here. And on this channel, I'm gonna put on a reverb. The reverb I'm going to send into this delay. Now I'm going to send the delay back into the reverb. You can see hopefully right here. And now I can ride this. To get some cool resonance. I can start playing with the delay. Oof. And a bit sharp, sorry about that. But you can do a lot by making things go where they are not supposed to. You have to be careful, obviously, because you can lead to a lot of really painful feedback, but Ableton lets you do it. Most DAWs actually let you do this if you're careful with how you route it. But being able to feed things into themselves and use feedback loops in this way is a great way to generate sounds. Ableton's really good at kind of letting you route things together that way. Yeah, I can't really think of much else. So I guess this will be where I call it. I don't know if this is going to go on YouTube, but if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, hit the bell, do the YouTube stuff. If you have any of your own Ableton tips, please let me know. Please follow me on Twitch, where you can see these things live. I do the stream every Thursday. Please follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord, check my Patreon. I think that should be it. So thank you for watching. This will be where we cut the video.